And welcome to our November edition of Sports Highlights. Glad you're with us. My name is Greg Picaveras for our monthly interview program. Our show airs on Mondays at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m., weekends at 9 a.m. on Cox Cable 47, 517, and NNPSTV.com. Our guests today are Al Clark and Ashley Nelson. Let's lead off with Al Clark, former Major League Baseball umpire. Good to see you.
Hey, Greg, it's good to see you.
Very good, my friend. For several decades, you were an umpire, and how did you get involved in being an umpire?
Well, no one grows up wanting to be an umpire. You grow up wanting to be a player. And when that harsh realization sets in that you're not good enough to be a player, you set your sights elsewhere.
Right.
For me, I had umpired as a second summertime job since I was 16 years old. I got out of high school. Went to college, got out of college, and really had no direction. So took my umpiring experience, went to umpire school, and 4 years later I was in the big leagues, and 30 years later I was out of baseball.
Well, you did it for a long time, and of course they always took care of you guys too as well on the road. It's not easy being on the road all the time.
No, it's not. When you're a young umpire, when you're a young man, you know, traveling first class and staying in the best hotels in the country is a lot of fun. But as you get older, that traveling gets a little more difficult. The hotels look all the same, and it's nice to come home.
Yeah. I know John Sterling, that's one of the things he said, the radio voice of the Yankees. He'll be doing some postseason, you know, on the Yankees radio network, is the travel is just a grind.
Oh, it's terrible. And it's a whole lot worse for umpires than it is for players or broadcasters. Umpires don't have a home stadium. Let's say the Orioles are home for a 9-day set. You're going to see 3 different sets of umpires. We are literally in an airplane 3 times a week. That means checking into and out of a hotel 6 times a week and getting a rental car 6 times a week. Picking one up, taking one back. Picking one up in a different city and taking one back. Yeah, that gets to be a grind.
Yeah. When was your first year? When was your last year as a Major League Baseball umpire?
My first year in the major leagues was 1976. I worked in the old Texas Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And my last year was 2001, and my last game was in Toronto.
Yeah, very good. And you talk about the American League and National League. You played in the heyday in the late 70s when the Yankees and Red Sox would go at it, when the A's were very good with Vida Blue and Reggie Jackson, and then, of course, you know, the Angels and so forth. But whether it was the American League or the National League, you had a 25-year stretch of excellent baseball.
Yeah, I did. 26 years. I spent 24 years in the American League, and then the last 2 years as a Major League umpire, where we went to both cities, you know, both the American League and National League cities. I'll tell you, Greg, it was a hell of a ride. I mean, think about it. Every day I went to work as an adult, I put on a big league baseball uniform. And my office was Yankee Stadium and Camden Yards and Fenway Park and Comiskey Park and Tiger Stadium. Can you think of a better way, a red-blooded American kid, to earn a living and spend your adult life?
Right. You were outdoors, and sometimes you were indoors, too.
Yeah, as a matter of
and
fact.
The biggest thing, too, is, you know, we talk about different fields. You know, here at Todd Stadium, they got a new field, but you guys worked a lot on AstroTurf, too.
We did. And, you know, once again, as you get older, being on that turf is really, really hard on your body, on your knees and your back. And it's really bad in the summertime, like in Kansas City where they used to have turf. The groundskeeper there put a thermometer on the turf, and it read 178 degrees. Now, you're standing on that turf for 3.5 hours back in the day. That gets pretty warm.
Right. And then you got to drink water to stay hydrated. And
Sure.
Did you ever have to go to the restroom in the middle of the game?
Oh, sure, and umpires do. You know, we go between innings, and if it takes a little bit longer than the half inning, then we start the inning with 3 guys, and nobody ever notices, quite honestly, because we're that good.
Right. And we're talking to Al Clark, and of course, Al, you talk about it too. It's one thing about umpires, you know, it's about balls and strikes, but we get it. But there's also the personalities that you guys go against, the players and the managers, whether it's a person like Pete Rose or Reggie Jackson or Dave Kingman. There's a lot of strong type A personalities.
Greg, they're all type A personalities, and so are umpires.
Yeah.
We couldn't do our job well or the right way if we weren't type A individuals. We can't be reticent out there. By virtue of the uniform I wear, we have to be in control. And we are in control. And that's part of the, perhaps, allure of being an umpire. We know we can do the job because we're that kind of people.
Mm-hmm. You have to be proactive.
Sure.
Talk about some of your memorable battles you went against as far as players or managers.
I was very fortunate to have been involved in a lot of really iconic things in the parts of 4 decades that I worked. My goodness, I was behind the plate when Randy Johnson pitched his first no-hitter up in Seattle. I was on the field when Dave Righetti pitched his no-hitter at Yankee Stadium. I was behind the plate, working home plate, when Cal Ripken Jr. tied Lou Gehrig's record in Baltimore, and then I was at third base the next day. I opened Camden Yards in Baltimore, closed the Cleveland Stadium in Cleveland, and opened next spring the Jake in Cleveland, and opened the new ballpark in Arlington.
Mm-hmm. And baseball players are such a creature of habit, so they're already wound up as far as, whether they put their cleats on a certain part of the grass or the dirt. So they're already wound up already before they even hit the ball.
They've been known to be a little superstitious.
Yeah.
And those type A personalities, you think about it, the umpire is really the only person that says no to them besides their current wives. I mean, they say strike 3, you can't play anymore.
Yeah.
And that doesn't set well with them sometimes.
What about the shot clock? What do you think about that?
Well, I think there's a place for it. I think that it's good. I think the technology that has come in baseball since I've retired, since I left the game, I think it's good. The technology is not going away. And our job is to try and get as many plays and situations correct as we possibly can. And if technology can help do it, then by golly, I think we should use it, and it'll make our game better. As far as robo-umps, no, not even. You take the personality out of the game, and you just might as well use use your thumbs in a video game.
No, umpires are just as important as the players are. They're the fabric of baseball, and just like a grass field or great stadiums. I'm a big traditionalist, and I like, the regular uniforms. That's important that the Yankees wore, the Mets wore when Tom Seaver was there, when the Reds there with Johnny Bench. But you're seeing a lot of change in the uniforms now.
Well, it's all about merchandising.
Yeah.
And each club has a day uniform and a night uniform and a Saturday and a Sunday uniform. And the same thing with the hats. And it's all because of merchandise and making money. And it's all about the money.
Yeah, or city uniforms, whatever.
Sure.
I remember in '89 watching the World Series with my dad, and you were there.
Yeah, I was in 1989. It got to be a little shaky.
Yeah.
We had an earthquake in San Francisco. I was there for that, and it was the longest time between games of an earthquake. We waited 10 games between the initial shock and the time that we got back onto the field. It was quite an experience being there in San Francisco. It was a 7.4 earthquake from the the fault in the ground. We were all in Candlestick Park at the time. We were half an hour before game time. It happened at 5:04 on October 17th in San Francisco, and our dressing room was in right field, right by the door, and we were dressed in. All the umpires were dressed in long johns and shower shoes. And the quake came, and we felt it, and we ran right outside because Candlestick is made of, or was made of, all cinder block, and the wave came through, and the cinder blocks actually waved. And we ran out into the field, and I was there, got out there quickly enough to see the wave actually go through the stadium. And I looked up and I saw the second deck bounce forward and jerk back. Thank goodness there were suspenders, architectural suspenders, on the top deck at Candlestick Park.
And the good thing about that World Series, too, there wasn't much travel between where the A's played at and, of course, San Francisco. That was the one positive thing. After that catastrophe, they were talking to Al Clark, former Major League Baseball umpire, too, and, of course, so many different personalities like we mentioned, too. But what about young umpires today? What do you think?
Well, I think the young umpires are good umpires. There are no bad umpires once you get to the big leagues. Just because you put a big league uniform on doesn't mean you're a big league umpire. Just like the players, you've got to work your way into and learn how to play and work in the big leagues. And that takes a little bit of time, 4 or 5 years actually. In our situation, to earn the respect that we can walk out on the field and the players will believe us. And it takes that long for a Major League umpire to do that.
You had mentioned off the air Earl Weaver was tough. What about Tommy Lasorda, Billy Martin, and Whitey Herzog?
Well, those guys were good old school baseball guys. Guys like Lou Piniella also. They wanted to win. Their personality was they wanted to win. And they would do anything in their power to do so. And most of the arguments, or a lot of the arguments, are backing their players. And it would be, so many managers have said it, it would be a whole lot better if you eject me, the manager, rather than the player. And in so many situations, I'd be in an argument with a player, and I'd tell him, I say, listen, you can stay out here and keep on yelling and bitching at me, or you can stay out here and be yelling at me and get ejected, or you can turn around and go away and help your club win in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning.
Right. Very good. Wrapping up here with Al Clark, former Major League Baseball umpire. So many great stadiums, so many great players, so many great managers. Is baseball still America's pastime? I mean, it seems like all we hear now is football and basketball.
Oh, I think baseball is definitely our national pastime, as is evidenced by 80 million people go to the ballpark every year, big league ballpark, and that's not counting the minor league stadiums all over the country.
And great entertainment for everybody. Well, Al, thank you for your time, your talent, and of course your insight on great days. We'll have to talk to you again down the future. And of course, all the best to you and your family.
Great, thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Good to be here with you.
My pleasure. Al Clark, former Major League Baseball umpire, doing a great job here talking about the wonderful sport of baseball. Stay tuned as our November show rolls on.
You're watching NNPS TV. Catch sports highlights on Mondays at 7, 2, and 7, and on Saturdays and Sundays at 9 a.m. Visit us online at nnpstv.com to view all your favorite episodes. NNPS TV, watching education happen.
Music and fine arts provide enriching experiences. They teach students that there can be more than one solution to a problem, more than one right answer, that mistakes are learning experiences and present an opportunity to be creative and flexible. The arts encourage persistence and dedication. They require sustained concentration, personal reflection involving critical analysis, and self-adjustment to reach desired goals. These are essential 21st century skills. Skills recognized as important to productive career and citizen success. Each student deserves and benefits from an arts-rich education.
I've been rising up and advancing in my classes.
I've been rising up to be the best student athlete I can be.
I'm rising up as a leader in my school.
I'm rising up to prepare for my future career.
We are all rising up and preparing ourselves for success, thanks to our dedicated teachers and staff in Newport News Public Schools.
Rise up!
And welcome back to our second segment of our Thanksgiving November show. We got a wonderful guest on right now, Ashley Nelson. Hope you enjoyed Al Clark. Ashley's the head girls tennis coach at Denby High School, and she's also involved with Norfolk State. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Greg.
First of all, you're a graduate of CNU.
I am, class of 2019.
Yeah, that school has really grown.
They have. Everything is constantly changing, but I love it.
And they got nice tennis courts there too.
They do. They're beautiful. They've got a great tennis program. Coach Eric Christensen is really he's running the ship there, so he's doing a great job.
You grew up in Baltimore and also Northern Virginia, of course. How was that upbringing?
Yeah, so born in Baltimore, but grew up, primarily in Fairfax County, Virginia. Definitely very different from here, but I mean, I loved it. Through high school, and I think through playing high school tennis, then coming here and coaching high school tennis, I think that's how I've seen the stark difference. But I do think that kind of upbringing has helped me as a coach. It's shown me what I want to expose my girls to. Tennis has kind of a misconception as a country club sport. It certainly can be that, but it's also something that brought me together with some of my closest friends. And I really hope that I can just give them that friendship through the sport.
Right. It's a great teamwork sport. You got singles, doubles, and of course, talk about some of the equipment you need to play tennis.
Yeah. So the equipment is definitely one of the biggest parts of the sport. So obviously we need tennis balls. That's something that, we do get a pretty fresh set of those. And I'd say we go through balls the most of any piece of equipment. For each match, we need about 9 fresh cans of balls for every singles match, which there are 6. And then every doubles match, which there are 3. So balls are a huge part of the tennis budget. And then, of course, you've got your tennis rackets. Now, they vary a little bit. This particular one was about $270, and then getting it strung was an additional $15. But, I don't expect that of my players. I'm just get a racket, and I'm happy with that.
But if they got it, more power to them, right?
Yeah, if they show up with, one of these elite rackets, I'm pretty impressed. But then again, the racket is just a racket. I need to see how you play with it, you know.
I grew up playing tournament tennis, totally understand, went to Ferguson, so it's just a great, great sport. And talk about what you're expecting for the team this spring. You also are involved in a lot of camps too.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as, my team at Denby, I just want to see some growth. So I was brought on last year as a coach with the goal of kind of just putting a little bit of new life, new breath into the program. So I've got some girls who've played some tennis before, but I've also got some girls coming to our fall workouts who have never picked up a racket. So part of my task right now is, refining the skills of my veteran players, but also teaching some new players tennis. Just this is how you hold the racket. This is, a basic stroke. So I would love to see the team come together. I would love to see players, ranking each other, doing some challenge matches. I would be happy with that.
It was a lot of this, the before and after, before you get to the spring.
Yes.
It's not how much time are you putting into tennis, because tennis can be very ruthless. If you're not playing, it'll show.
Oh, absolutely. So right now with fall workouts, we're practicing twice a week. I'm always encouraging my girls, go out, do some camps. But Newport News, the main tennis kind of facility here is Huntington Park. With my girls living in Denby, Huntington Park is on the other side of Newport News. So without, consistent transportation, it can be a little bit hard for them to get down there for camps. So that's why I'm really harping in on these fall workouts, because these 2 times a week might be the only practice that they're getting. So we got to make that count.
Talking to Ashley Nelson, of course, they can always practice at Denby on their own.
Oh, for sure.
And at Metchville. Metchville's got nice courts.
They do, yes.
What about Denby's courts? What kind of condition are they going into the spring?
Denby's courts have seen better days for sure. That is actually an initiative that I'm working on now with the United States Tennis Association, who I am actually a certified coach with. So they have some great grants out there for court restoration, and I'm actually working with my athletic director, Marcus Williams, to see if we can get a grant to restore all 6 of the courts. They are more than just courts for our players, they're for our community. And something that the Denby courts have that, the Menchville and the Woodside courts don't have is we have shade over our courts. The Menchville courts and Woodside courts, there's no tree cover around them. So they're beautiful courts, they're in pristine condition, but on a hot day, you will sizzle on that blacktop, and it gets very hot. It is like a convection frying pan to be on those courts. It just, you can feel the heat radiating from the ground. So if we can get our courts up to that condition with the shade, I think the community is going to utilize them very well.
The good thing is your season pretty much starts in the winter and the spring, so it's not too hot, but still, weather is always an issue with tennis.
Oh yeah, and towards the end of the season, I mean, even as early as April last year, we had some pretty hot days. It got hot really quick. I mean, I feel like we didn't even have a spring last year. It just, one week it was 40 degrees, and then the next week it was pushing 80 degrees, you know, and we were just steaming hot every single day. So it comes pretty fast.
Welcome to Hampton Roads. And let me ask you a question too about pro tennis too. One girl in particular, Coco Gauff.
Yes.
Now, she always seems to be, you know, in the spotlight. She won a U.S. Open. She did good, but she just got rid of her coach. Brad Gilbert will no longer be coaching her, but it's mostly about her mother and her dad over the years. But the poor girl always looks like she's in agony playing. I know that from playing tennis.
Yeah.
She doesn't always look happy, and being happy is important to play tennis.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the problem there?
I mean, she's very young, you know. I think that's a big thing, and I think when you have young players who go straight to the pros and don't have the infrastructure of maybe going to college or even having that team of like high school tennis, I think when you're solo like that for so long, it can really kind of ostracize you a bit. I think Coco's just had to be Team Coco forever. Even though she has friends who are other pros and she's got, you know, maybe friends from childhood, she doesn't have like, oh, this was my high school team. Oh, this was my college affiliation. She's got her parents, you know, and that is great. You know, I think having family helps. Tennis is definitely one of those sports where the parents have to be involved, but for someone who's, you know, 19, 20 years old, I mean, it's good to have peers your age supporting what you're doing.
And I think it's good that she plays doubles, because over the years, mostly singles players don't like to play doubles tournaments too, because it's a bear to play singles, let alone doubles, because one of the two suffers, but she seems to enjoy both.
Yeah, she's a pretty versatile player, I will say that. I think it just comes to the off the court stuff. I think if she could, you know, get that together, maybe have a more solid group of tennis-minded people who aren't so, you know, just enthralled with the game, but can also bring her out and just say, hey, like, we can do other things that are not tennis. I think that would be very beneficial for her.
We're talking to Ashley Nelson. She's the head girls tennis coach of the Denby High School Patriots, one of the historical schools in Newport News. And of course, the parents are involved in high school, because in order to get the girls out there, you have to deal with their parents or guardians.
Of course.
They need that support.
Yes, absolutely. It is integral. I mean, even at matches, you can see the difference in players who have someone who's rooting for them versus players who do not. Just the difference in being on the sidelines of that fence, you know, clapping, whatever it is. As a coach, you know, I can't really do too much in the aspect of cheering or saying anything, because it could be perceived as, oh, you're coaching, you're giving advice, you're doing this. So I have to be quiet the whole time. But parents can come, they can clap, friends can come, and I do notice that my girls perform better when they have someone in their corner at their matches.
Right, the encouragement is so much for self-esteem.
Yes.
Absolutely. Talking to Ashley Nelson, as far as your spring team premonitions going forward, what do you think?
As far as this spring, so last year we did have one team win. This year I would like to have more. We are, you know, kind of just trying to breathe some new life into the program. It's all about consistency with these players. So really just giving, you know, telling them, hey, you have to come to practice to play. This is what's expected of you. This is what tennis is. You know, it's more than just, oh, I'm going to pick up a racket and I'm going to get a varsity letter because it looks good for college. You know, those things are true, but if you want to excel at tennis, if you want to win, you have to run, you have to do the weightlifting, you have to have good nutrition. It's the full package like any other sport.
All right, you have to be on your game literally before you get to match time, because you start your morning so early for these girls or guys who ever played tennis, and by 4 or 5 o'clock you might have an empty tank, but you have to have some type of protein or nutrition to sustain you, or
for sure,
water or some type of drink.
For sure. And I mean, they're in school all day. You know, they wake up, I mean, their school day starts at what, like 7, and they get out at 1:55, and then we have to hop on a bus. I mean, we played Kings Fork last year in Gloucester, so that's a 1-hour bus ride. You have to still be expected to be ready to perform when we get off that bus. So it's important to think about, you know, from breakfast, okay, like, am I pacing my day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to as well because you're at Norfolk State.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Yeah, so that's good. So I was just onboarded this August as a biology professor. So I have my master's in medical sciences, and that's been going pretty well. So this spring, that'll be interesting to see how that balance goes, but I'm excited for it. I like to stay busy, so can't wait.
How much do you use your laptop and phone to get through the day?
More than I would like to.
Yeah.
More than I would like to. I am glued to my technology. I mean, I've got, you know, the watch, the whole trifecta. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. We're wrapping up with Ashley Nelson. What advice would you give to somebody that wants to play for Denby this spring?
You know, come out. Don't be afraid to come out and join the team. You know, there's no cattiness. They're a bunch of girls. They're ready to bring anybody in. But it's a learning experience for everybody. We're building a team. You know, we're not just elite players here like, oh, you can or can't be on this team. So come one, come all.
Right, because they have to get along. That attitude means a lot. These girls have to get along with each other.
Absolutely. There's no room for any of the, you know, socio whatever, the high school drama, like none of that on the team.
Right, and of course, a lot going on, a lot to look forward to, and of course, you know, your schedule will be coming out here soon, so they can go to the games too. And you want the public to come out as well, right?
Absolutely, we would love for the public to come and support. I think it also helps for the public to see the courts. It helps for us to make a petition and say, hey, our courts need some work. Why don't you guys take a look and see what we're working with? But also, you know, see our courts, and if we can get them looking great, people can see what they'd be playing on.
I guess the best road trip is to Mitchell. It's so close.
Yeah, it seems like that. Yeah.
You go to Gloucester or Kings Fork, you said an hour. That's if you're lucky.
That's an hour, yeah, without traffic.
Very good. Well, thank you, Ashley. Give us your final advice for a young tennis player, girl or boy.
Yeah, put in the work. Put in the work. Do it right the first time. And, you know, you'll be good. Just make the investment in yourself.
Yeah, not just the forehand, but the backhand and the serve. And
all of it.
The volley, everything.
Yep.
Drop
Get out
shots.
and practice.
Yeah, very good. All right, hope you enjoyed our November show, folks. Al Clark, former Major League Baseball umpire, as well as Ashley Nelson, head girls tennis coach at Denby High School. For our great crew and Ray Price, I'm Greg Bicaveras. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon.